Hey guys, all right, let's take a look at Vertcoin. I know many of you guys have been trading this and have done really well. Um, you know, I caught this. Sometimes you just get lucky. I actually I caught it in both Vertcoin and the dollar, and that was just a stunning trade. And sometimes the market surprises you, but that's why we're all in crypto because of that volatility. So now you look at it, so what often happens is when you make money in one market, you're really drawn to keep going back to that well. And you got to be careful of that, right? So you have to evaluate it as though you had never seen the chart before and you were just looking at it for the very first time today. What would would you see a trade there? Now, with an extreme move like this, it shouldn't be much of a surprise that we're getting a steep correction, right? Because a lot of noobs, well, maybe I shouldn't use that language. A lot of people that are new to crypto for whatever reason caught that. I mean, I'm getting all sorts of comments from YouTube with people asking about it, interested in it, where's it going next. For whatever reason, people got excited about that, and I think a lot of people caught that move. So let's look at it as though we were just coming to it from with a fresh look. Well, okay, so this one's easy. So we can see we get this nice subdivision here into a 1. We get a 2. Of course, before that happened, we were looking at this as potentially a 3-4, but that's the market surprises you all the time. So with that depth here, we can look at this and say, well, that came down hard, and there were stops getting hit along the way. That's the bumpy ride down. But it's there's a complexity there. So best case you can say is, well, okay, there's my A wave, and you could have been a buyer here. This was, I know a lot of people were looking were buyers here. Hopefully the stop was tight on the other side of the 6.5, so nobody got hurt there and didn't give back all the profit from this. I'm sure there are people that are still in it. So now if you look at it, you have to assume. Look at it this way. Just look at length of time. Look at the date range. So if we go this, somewhere around here, well, I guess we call it here, would be our 1 wave. Okay, that's 155 bars. Our 2 wave, very short. That's 23 bars. Okay, let's go over here. Now, if that's our 3 and we go to our A, that's 20 bars. Considering the size of that move, well, let's get a look at that one. What do we do here? This one, 40 bars. I guess what I'm trying to suggest to you is that you want to look for some sense of proportion. So it would have been really surprising if this had just gone straight. Let me take some of this off. If this had just gone straight down and then ripped to new highs for a 5, that's the dream trade because it would have been easy. But that's the market. Market is never easy. This was a gift, right? So you take those and you're grateful, and you bank that, and you say, okay, now I'm just restocked my account if you were up or down, but that's a big win. So you take that and then you're careful with it. So coming back to the market, it shouldn't be surprising that we're getting some complexity here. Now, if we look at it here, here's an A. Logical. We go, what do we get for our B? So what you'd be expecting anywhere from a 50 to a 786. Well, we get through the 6.5. Not uncharacteristic for a B wave. We think of Bitcoin, right? So we're pushing on the 786. We don't get it. So this is, all those, people that were expecting, oh, it's just going to keep going. We got a 1, 2, there's a 3, there's a 4. That was potentially a trade, but the structure wasn't there. So people taking it here on a 4. Again, I hope your stop was tight because that would be uncharacteristic because we had an A, B, pardon me. Within it, it would be an A, B, C. So you had an A, B, and then you had the C. You got to be anticipating where the probabilities are. So the probability is, given that move and the steepness and how short time that was, that you're likely going to put in a B wave and go into some more complexity for an A, B, C. So at least you get clarity there. So the fact that you got this A, B, C within a B, remember it's always 3s within 3s. So you'd be this would have changed the count. So we get an A, a B, and a C, right? So that's the corrective portion of that B wave. Then we, it looks like we might have a 1, 2, 3. it's not the best looking C, but interestingly, we come a little shy of the median line. So now I've got the shift median line because that seems to have been holding it. Now, this is a point of note here. We come right into the pocket of the Vegas wave, right? That's the classic Vegas wave. If any of you aren't sure, I'm assuming most of you guys know this. That's the 144 EMA and the 169 EMA, and then I add to it the baseline of the 233. Most people use the 200. I like the 233 because it's a fib number. But we come right into the sweet spot. Right, and look how we did it again back here. So that has been just a great support for longs into the market. But we come shy of the median line, which is that if you're looking for an opportunity to get long, that's not a bad place to do it, because if it's going to start to turn away from the median line, you're creating the energy, so it's a failure to get there. So the entry here, and I think I pulled them, but I think I was trying to get long right around in here. Now I've taken those off because the count has changed, but that doesn't get filled. So this creates the energy for this to rip away from the median line. So it's, if you do a little digging on pitchfork trading, it's called the Hagopian rule, and it was based off of Dr. Hagopian, who was one of Andrew's students, who noticed that a failure to get to the median line often resulted in a rip past outside of the pitchfork in equal to or in excess of the length of this move that failed to get there. So potentially now you look at that and say, okay, well, if that's the case, could I have some sort of a truncated C wave here? It doesn't have great structure. I'm on a 1 hour, so I'd expect to see a little bit better structure here to complete that in a fifth. So I think when I looked at this last night before signing off, I was anticipating that we had this kind of thing happening, that we had a 1, 2, this was our 3, 4 was coming in for a diagonal, and that we were going to go down for the 5. Let me put the wave on there just to make that a little easier to see, and I'll change the color. I'll go to a yellow. I thought that's what we were likely to have. So the buy would have been down here. I thought we had a good shot for that, I guess, over here, and somewhere incorporating the median line into that in some fashion. Well, we don't get it. So, does it make sense? Well, can we play this as an ABC? I don't love it because I don't get clean subdivision into the 5 there. But listen, the market will fool you all the time. So could that be a C? Well, we'd want to look at some of the swing relationships. Well, let's compare it to the A wave, then to the B wave. Well, here, if I jiggle it here, you see the gold line? That goes right in. That was the other reason why this was a contender. You had the 618 of the A wave projected from the B. That was a contender. So there was a big cluster down here. We don't get there. Now, we may still come back to visit that. So how could we quantify? How could we know whether or not we're in a third wave? So a couple of guys just on the Discord were asking me, third wave? Well, you can't say. So we can say, well, what can we say? Well, we're internal of this swing. We've got targets down here. You see this? That's the negative 23 off of this move here. We're to and through the 6.5. The 786 holds it, so a likely contender for a B wave. So we've got targets down here of negative 23 that cannot be ruled out. We've got, of course, we do have upside targets as well. We've got these up here. I guess we'd have to move this over now. So we do have that potential because here's our 3, some sort of a 4. We've got potentially our 5 up here. So that's a contender. But, is there a trade here now? I would tell you there's not, because we don't know what we're in, because this still could be some sort of a complex correction. We don't know. How would we know? Well, we got to get at least one. If this is going to be a 1-2, we got to get at least 100% of the 1 wave. Note here, back to the Vegas wave. So let me open that up, and we'll look at that and say, well, how do we know? Because I would tell you that the trade here is not to be a buyer now. You could be a buyer there, and you might catch that, but that would be a low probability, and you're setting up a bad habit. So if I look at that and go, okay, there's the 1 wave, there's my 2. Well, I'm just now barely to 100% of that wave. So you could call it a 3, but does that look impulsive to you? I mean, I would be looking for this. Now, take note of where that falls. That's the most common target for a third wave. There's the 1618 to the 175. That's the range. But that lines up perfectly with our 786. So even there, hard to call that absolute. But if we get there, if we do this, if we're going to go, if we've got a 2 low and we're going up to the most likely target for the 3, and we want to stay as bulls here, well, then this is the trade. This is the trade. Let that show itself as a 3, and then we'd look for the 4 to come back down. Ideally, it doesn't overlap the 1, so you'd be drawing this swing pivot here. Notice how it's right at the 50. So interesting, so that's sometimes like when you see my charts and they're just filled with lines, is because I'll leave them on. Now, when I'm trying to explain something to you guys, or even on your own charts, it's much harder. Unless you drew them, it's much harder to visually look at that and know where they came from. But on your own charts, that's also why I draw the boxes, because if I want to start pulling things off, I know those boxes are significant. So here, if indeed we get there, I'd expect resistance there for the reasons that you can see right now. That's the 786. We haven't visited that yet. And I've got the likely target for a third. So the trade is the 4th. You wait for the 4th. That's the high probability trade. And we could go higher. That would be, barely getting past that high. But that would be the 2618 from the 2 low. That would be an extreme, because nothing says we stop there. But if this is going to really rip, we could go there, and the 4 might end up like that. And then we're going up to some of these higher targets. So it's just a matter of looking for the high probability zones in the Elliott count, and do they fit with the fibs? Do they fit with some of the market geometry, some of the structure? I mean, here's if we're going to get up there, here's something you'd want to mark, that previous B high. So if we're coming back down, that's a likely contender for some support. Previous resistance becoming support. We got a sequence of higher lows. See, that's all the 5-wave structure is. Higher high, here's the low, higher low. Higher high, then we come back, higher low. That's what makes a trend, right? And that's what makes the 5-wave sequence, right? So looking at that, you've got a couple of different roadmap paths with which that could go. But until we see evidence of that, right now, all I see is I got to keep this in mind down here, because here's that 786, here's that target down here, -23. The 100% of the A to the B. So I got a cluster here. I got clusters up above. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, there's no trade there if you're not already in. All right, let's real quick. That's 12 minutes. Let's take a look at it on the dollar, because don't discount trading it on the dollar. If it's a cleaner trade, take it on the dollar. Don't get caught up in always being tied to, I got to take everything in Bitcoin. Where's the cleaner trade? And I would tell you it's kind of the same thing here. There's no way to call that yet. It's actually, well, I'm on a 4-hour here. Let me get to a 1-hour. I mean, almost identical. Look, Vegas wave. Right. So this has been great support. That goes to the 786 to the tick. So you wouldn't call that a 1, 2, 3, deep 4. I mean, I suppose that could play, but that would surprise me if this ends up being a 4. But it could be. It's the same scenario. We could have the C. We could have that. And this is a 1, 2. So again, same process. Well, how would I know? I got to go look at my 1. We're through it's almost identical on the dollar. So here's that zone up here for the 1618. There's the -23. There's the 786 of this pull. There's the 1618 to 175. So likely contender here. So just like with the if that's our 3 and we stall there, then the trade is to wait. The trade is to wait for that. That's the trade. Looking for that. Got that? Not a lot of help here on the oscillators. But, this was significant. Now, look, we're quiet over here. We're quiet. Not a lot there to work with. Market's got to show itself. All right, there's 14 minutes. All right, I'll stop there. I thought this was going to be a short one. Okay, that's it for now, guys.